Welcome to the Times of Israel's The Reel Schmooze. I'm your host, Amanda Borschel-Dan, here with our movie maven, Jordan Hoffman, for our weekly powwow. Let's call it a powwow about all of the Jewish movie reviews and Jewish entertainment news anyone can use.
That's right.
Jordan,
thank you for having me back. It's terrific. We're getting close to the end of the calendar year. Everything's a little busy. I was in the car all day yesterday. I barely got any sleep, but I'm back up today to face the day and traveled through from the deep south all the way back to central New Jersey. And I want to give a shout out to the great state of Maryland, because the minute you enter Maryland from either direction, it's like, hello, we hope you like celery salt. Here you go. It's on all your food. So that's a weird thing there. But good weather by and large, and spent the Hanukkah days down in North Carolina. So there you go.
I'm not even sure what celery salt is, actually.
Well, come to Maryland sometime. It's the base ingredient of something called Old Bay seasoning. When you go to a restaurant in Maryland, they have salt, they have pepper, and then they have Old Bay. And Old Bay is actually, if I'm not mistaken, it was invented by a great Jewish immigrant, if I'm not mistaken. I have to double check that. It's what they put on crabs, which I believe is not kosher, right? That's a shellfish.
I believe you're right there.
Yeah.
So,
But I believe, if I'm making this up, it's just because I'm a little wacky. But I believe that Old Bay seasoning was created by, I don't know. This is worth Googling. This is important.
No, I think our listeners should let us know. So, listeners, if you know whether Old Bay was created by Jews
Gustav
or not,
Brunn, a good German Jewish immigrant in 1939, he invented it.
Jordan, you just ruined our listener involvement here.
I'm sorry, but I was too excited. I wanted to talk about it. It's this special magical pixie dust that you put on all your food in the state of Maryland and nowhere else. And but it's originally for treif. So, this is one of the great paradoxes of American life.
Well, I don't know if you know this, Jordan, but one of the great crab dishes, crab rangoon, is usually not treif. So you can throw it, all your Old Spice, or what's it called? Not Old Spice.
Old Bay seasoning. Old Bay seasoning.
On the crab rangoons, which is so good for today because listeners were actually recording on Christmas Eve.
That's right.
Yes, just throwing all of that together, and in terms of listener support and them chiming in, we had a really great email from a woman, and I just wish we had gotten it about a month ago when we were still searching for the name of the podcast, and she suggested, a little late, but maybe we can work it in somehow, that we call the podcast Schmoovies.
You know what? It's too perfect. It's too simple. The Reel Schmooze is where it's at. But I do thank that woman. And I thank also the guy who, because in our first episode 0, I went on and on about what the term reel means, REEL.
Right.
And he has in his attic an old film reel that if you hold it a certain way, it does look like a Star of David. Somehow it's hard to explain, but if you hold the reel a certain way, this particular one has some sort of embossment on it. And he said that he would come to my house and give it to me. And I have not responded yet because I don't know if I'm ready for that level of interaction. But
I think you should make an appointment at some kind of Blockbuster Video. That seems like a good neutral spot.
Right. We'll have to build a time machine first to go back to a Blockbuster Video. But I do appreciate that gentleman for his offer, and that email was brought a chuckle to me. So thank you.
Right. We love all the emails. So please continue sending them in. And I read all of them as long as they don't go to my spam, which I've started checking very regularly because somehow a lot of them do go to spam.
Yeah.
And spam, I should also add, is not kosher.
No.
But you can put Old Bay spice on it and it might taste really good.
It might be. No, that would be a salt. You would go straight to the emergency room. If you had Old Bay seasoning, is very salty. And anyway, the base element is celery salt. What is celery salt? It's salty. It's the essence of celery and salt. You might like it. You should check it out.
I think the essence of celery is water, but that's
Well,
all right.
you got to trust me on this. It's pretty good.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
I'll look for it. I don't think we
Yeah.
have it here, but that's fine. I also have some news, Jordan, and
Yeah.
this is semi-related to listener emails because a very gracious listener wrote in suggesting that I should purchase a new television. And as it were, coincidentally, my father, whom we like to call Saba Claus during Hanukkah,
Very
like
nice.
Santa Claus, but Saba Claus. Saba is Hebrew for grandpa. Anyway, so my father, Saba Claus, had just donated a chunk of cash to our family, suggesting the very same thing. And so today I had a new television delivered. It's waiting for me downstairs. It's still in the box. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, like, 17 years ago when I purchased our previous television, I just took it out of the box, put it on the stand, and plugged it in. But now they're, like, smart, so I'm a little nervous about this.
Yeah, get one of your kids to set it up for you because it's going to have all kinds of whistles and bells. That's great that Saba Claus got you the dough for a new TV. I would have suggested you could have put in for that, and TOI could have covered it. This is a business expense, and if you want me to get the boss on the horn and let him know that you needed a bigger TV, maybe for when this one, if this one should break, the next one, so. Or if this
Right.
one's too
Okay.
smart, if you want one that's dumbed down a little bit. Sometimes TVs can be too smart.
We'll see, we'll see. The one son that has any kind of technical prowess is in the army, and he's only coming home in about a week and a half. So hopefully, through the magic of YouTube how-to videos, I will figure this out for
That's
myself.
right.
So to be continued,
All right.
listeners.
Fair enough.
All right, Jordan, let's go to a
Yes.
short break, and then we'll dive into the program.
Over 2,000 years ago, the Hanukkah flame burned against all odds, a symbol of resilience and hope that still shines brightly today. Now, Israel once again turns to light, not just to remember, but to protect and rebuild. As the country rises from 2 years of war, the Technion's brightest minds are leading the way, revitalizing the economy, strengthening national security, and shaping a future full of promise. This Hanukkah, we honor the Technion minds who bring light to the darkness, in our labs, on our front lines, and in our hearts. May the light of innovation illuminate every corner of Israel, heralding a new era of strength and renewal.
And we're back. I'm Amanda Borschel-Dan here with movie maven Jordan Hoffman. Now, I want to, before we talk about the one movie that we're talking about today, which is A Sure Thing by Rob Reiner, directed by Rob Reiner, I want to bring up a play that I went to last night.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And you have those evenings out where you're like, wow, I'm really tired, but I'm still riding the wave of having such a good time.
That's great.
And it's this, Jordan. So I went to go see Who by Fire, which is a multimedia performance based on the book by Matti Friedman, Who by Fire. It's all about Leonard Cohen's time during the Yom Kippur War in the Sinai Peninsula. So unfortunately, it's not yet in English. And it was a really interesting juxtaposition of languages because basically the performance is at all times there's a guitarist and a cellist who both sing. They're on stage and they perform the Leonard Cohen songs that go along with the narrative in English. Okay.
Oh,
But at the same time, the narrator, who is also a wonderful singer, comes out and she's speaking in Hebrew, obviously. And Matti, who was born in Canada, and I know him a bit because he was a founding Times of Israel journalist as well. He was born in Canada, but he comes out and he's speaking in Hebrew.
Oh, wow.
And then they have all these verses from the Leonard Cohen songs that are, screened on a screen behind them in Hebrew translation. It's really interesting. And the translator did a wonderful job. It's just poetic Hebrew. And it's just a fabulous time. The time zipped through. It was something, I'm speaking now to my Israeli listeners more than anything, but it's something that I full-throatedly say, not bad, which is our highest mark.
Well, that's
The
great.
Reel
I mean,
Schmooze.
it's funny. I have Matti Friedman's book, Who by Fire. It is the one book of his that I have not read yet. I've read his other books. The Aleppo Codex specifically is a really cool book that he wrote. But it's funny. Leonard Cohen is still beloved in hip circles in New York and all over the world. And he is, if you look under the hood, he's unrepentant Zionist. If you go to Montreal, there is an enormous mural of him that's something of a major tourist attraction because it's in a central part of town. You can't miss it. And I'm waiting for the day when he gets posthumously canceled for being an unrepentant Zionist, because I feel like the people who think he's so great, may not know, and this is, of course, verboten in popular culture right now, something that we'll talk about later when we start talking about some of our news stories. But it's interesting how beloved he is, because he's not I'll say this with all due respect. I mean, he's not a good singer. He's a he has a very specific voice, like Bob Dylan and like so many others. It's like you can't, or I mean, Springsteen always says this. I mean, he always jokes about he's the world's greatest rock and roll performer, but he's not a very good singer. He always says he's a better guitar player than he is a singer. Um, and it's kind of funny that he just is still, the ultimate cool, like he still does, like, even though he's been gone now for a long time, his it hasn't waned, he's only getting stronger, I think, in some circles.
Okay, so don't tell anyone that he's a Zionist, okay? And
He said it himself, just got to listen to the man, so.
Don't listen to the man. Okay, so let's do transition to some of our news segments, because I actually don't know what you're going to talk about. So, Jordan, what do you have for me?
Oh, well, number one, you pointed out that there's right around Christmas time, there's a movie coming out called Anaconda, which is a quasi remake of which I have not seen. And by all rights, it's a silly movie, but maybe it's something if you want to bring the kids to something this next week. It's not a remake of the 1990s, early 2000s kind of action horror movie Anaconda, where a bunch of people go on a boat and get attacked by a giant snake. It's kind of a postmodern spin. It's about a bunch of goofy guys who want to make a remake of Anaconda. So they go to Latin America to make this remake, and then they get attacked by an actual anaconda. And I spoke to two people who saw it, who really love dumb comedies, and I said, "Is it any good?" And one guy just wrote back, "No." And then this other woman, and both of these people were Jewish. One just wrote back, "No, that's it," and the other woman wrote back, "No, it's terrible, but I laughed a lot." So there you go.
See, I like that, because Dafka, I would have to say that sometimes you snooty reviewers just are judging things a bit harshly, and if you're laughing, that means it's successful.
Oh,
that's
sure,
what
absolutely.
I think.
Anyway, the reason I bring it up is that it stars two great Jewish American actors, Paul Rudd and Jack Black. And you brought this up because you mentioned something about Jack Black, and I said, "Did you know how cool Jack Black's mother was?" And you actually didn't respond to my email, so I'm assuming that means
I
you didn't.
apologize.
That's okay. No, you're a busy woman. So I just want to let everybody. So Jack Black, he is a huge film star. He makes, the earlier this year, or maybe it was actually last year, I can't remember now. It was the beginning of this year. He was in the Minecraft movie, which is not exactly art, but it's a major success. I mean, it was one of the most successful movies of the year. He's a big goofy guy. But his mother, who has since passed away, her name was Judith Love Cohen. And Judith Love Cohen was remarkable for her time, and remarkable in general, in that she was a very important scientist and was involved in the early NASA program, and was deeply involved in building guidance computers for early rockets, and was deeply involved in the Apollo missions. And in fact, if you read the obituary of Jack Black's half-brother, one of her contraptions is what saved the Apollo 13 astronauts. If it wasn't for her, Tom Hanks would be floating around in space still. This is in the early 1960s when there were very few women in this field. And she was a very important leading person. And that's Jack Black's mom, is Judith Love Cohen. And Jack Black has some half-brothers, half-siblings, all of whom are in the sciences and doing very important things. But Jack Black is a big, goofy guy with a big, bushy beard, with his belly hanging out, making dopey movies like Anaconda and Minecraft and other things. He's great in The School of Rock also, was a really good one. So next time you see...
it.
You didn't like School of Rock?
No, we couldn't even finish watching it.
Really?
So
well, it's an anodyne film. Well, anyhow, next time you see Jack Black clowning around on a TV, know that his mom is a rocket scientist and she was an innovator in the field and a trailblazer.
So he was the black sheep of the family.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, cool. Do you have any more jingles for us,
I was going to
Jordan?
bring something up but maybe it's a lead into next week because it's about Marty Supreme. There's some dopey.
Right. I am so looking forward to watching that because we're going to go out and watch it in the movie theater. The theater.
Big deal.
And get the whole experience. But I have to say, Jordan, I'm kind of looking forward to it, but also hating the idea of going there. Why?
Why? I don't know. Why? Tell me. Because it's long? You have to go to the bathroom during it? Or?
Well, I always have to go to the bathroom, not usually during it. And so inevitably, before or after, I will go to the bathroom. And this is why I don't like going to the movie theater, because in the bathroom, they use this room spray that just gets in my hair. And then I have to smell it for the next 6 hours. So I've tried everything, putting my hair back, all sorts of stuff.
Really?
And it's just terrible. It actually makes me not want to go to the theater, but
That's
we are going
crazy.
to the theater.
Well, first of all, time out. There's only one movie theater you can go to. Can you go to the other theater instead? That doesn't stink up the bathroom, or is it too far away?
Well, no, they're about equidistant from my house, but we tend to just go on, don't tell anyone, Jordan, but we tend to go on Shabbat, and that's the only one that's open on Shabbat. So that's where we go.
Well, if you want to beat the crowds, you go on Shabbat, and you can have your crab cakes then also. You might as well go all in at that point.
That's right.
Well, I mean, you can wear a hat maybe when you go in there. I don't know what to say.
Okay, you know what I'll do? I'll put on a Haredi woman's head covering on Shabbat, going to the movie theater and buy my ticket proudly.
Everybody will be so baffled.
What's going on?
It is a lengthy film. It's 2.5 hours, so you're gonna have to get the stink in your hair, but it's worth it. So why don't we? But my second thing is a lead into that. So why don't we come back to that later in the Schmooze cast? All right.
All right, very good. So let's jump into our movie, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to let you tee up the specifics of the plot and whatnot. But last week when we came on, it was right after we heard that Rob Reiner and his wife were killed. There's nothing to joke about here. It's awful, and the specifics of the case, which I'm sure everybody knows by now, are just devastating. But I was talking about how there was a moment in time when he was truly one of the all-time great filmmakers. He was knocking out one by one, and they were all winners. And this is after he'd established himself as an actor and, of course, was Meathead and All in the Family. And I started listing the ones that he'd made during this run. And by the time I got to the second one, you said, hold up, I haven't seen that one yet. So that's what we're talking about today, his second film, The Sure Thing. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about this run he had in the 1980s and early 1990s. His first feature film was This Is Spinal Tap, which is a legendary mock documentary about the rock world, which is beheld as one of the greatest music comedies of all time. And in fact, his last film was the long-awaited sequel, Spinal Tap 2: The End Continues. After This Is Spinal Tap came The Sure Thing, which we're about to talk about. And again, this 1 year after that. 84 was Spinal Tap. 85 was The Sure Thing. 86 was Stand By Me, based on the Stephen King novella with River Phoenix and Jerry O'Connell and Will Wheaton. After that, 87, The Princess Bride, of course, with Peter Falk and Carrie Elway. The kind of the parody, if you will, of fantasy films and Lord of the Rings and all that. After that, probably his best is When Harry Met Sally, written by Nora Ephron, Billy Crystal, and Meg Ryan. Is sort of a classic in the spirit of Woody Allen romantic comedy set in New York. Then right after that was the film Misery, right, which is kind of a horror film with Kathy Bates and James Caan. And then after that, totally different style, A Few Good Men, which is, Tom Cruise demanding the truth, Jack Nicholson denying him the truth, one right after
Because
another.
he can't handle the truth.
Can't
handle the truth. Yeah.
Then after that, he finally had a whiff. He made a movie called North, which is kind of a famous disaster. We won't talk about that one. And then after that, he continued making good movies. The American President, which is sort of like the West Wing, made a film called Ghosts of Mississippi about civil rights in the early '60s in the South. And then after that, I will admit his the magic. He wasn't on top of it as much. Everyone after that wasn't such a winner, but that little run there is almost unparalleled by any filmmaker, to have so many one right after another that are just great. You hear that, The Princess Bride, oh my God, Harry Vasili, oh my God. So that was Rob Reiner, and but we're talking about his second film, which was a substantial box office hit at the time. And it was critically well received at the time, but it isn't as famous as some of the other ones I mentioned, which was the Sure Thing. And you saw it for the first time this week. What did you think?
I'm going to tell you all about it after the break.
3 million Israelis are dealing with trauma since October 7th. To help Israelis heal, Hadassah is there, with the largest rehabilitation center in Jerusalem, world-renowned medical centers, and youth villages. It's said, saving a life saves the world. Imagine helping millions. This is Hadassah, a life-changing force in Israel and the world.
And we're back. I'm Amanda Borschel-Dan here with our movie maven, Jordan Hoffman. So we're going to talk about The Sure Thing. And it brought up a lot of nostalgic memories for me because, as you noted, it was made in, I think, 1985. So I was 10 when it came out, which means I didn't see the thing. But in the same era, there are a bunch of movies that I did somehow manage to see maybe a bit later, like Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles. And when I was watching The Sure Thing, I was very nostalgic for those movies. Also because I didn't very much like The Sure Thing, and I did very much like the other, more girly movies. But I think that's kind of the point, because I think The Sure Thing is more of a boys' film. Why do I say that? Because it's about this, horny teenager who's trying to go across country to have sex with a woman who is a sure thing, meaning
Right.
she just wants to have sex. As a woman, I find this very objectionable. Possibly this kind of thing does occur, but I don't know many women like that, or any, actually. And so I found that, the objectification, if that's a word, of
Yeah.
this woman throughout the whole movie as disturbing.
Yeah.
They show, glimpses of her, and she's, Nicolette Sheridan, is
Nicolette
that her name?
Sheridan. Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
fantasy
like this
woman. Yeah. Yeah.
fantasy woman, blonde, string bikini, tan, all that kind of stuff. Throughout the full movie. I mean, definitely kept my husband's attention. There was no sleeping on this one.
Yeah.
And I did like that it was a short film. And then the foil to John Cusack's character I thought she was like meh. She was like, okay. I didn't find her to be like this compelling character. Whereas Cusack, I have always liked, especially after watching Say Anything as a
Yeah.
teen, obviously the most romantic movie ever. But I loved watching the film, The Sure Thing, just to see like the striped rugby shirts that my brothers had, and
Yeah.
the feathered hair, and the rolled up suit jacket that people would wear. So like for the fashion, I thought it was fantastic. But for the
Yeah.
actual, plot, shall we say, definite meh category for me.
Yeah. Well, and also speaking of the '80s aspect, the music, it's like one hit after another of the era. Well, I think the movie is quite good. Now, I will certainly, yes, the central premise is meant to be offensive, and luckily he learns his lesson by the end, and he realizes that he's chasing a dream, and he grows up, and I think that's sort of, you're not supposed to come away from this being like, yeah, it's not meant to be it's it's self-aware that it's being sexist. I hope that most people get that. And I don't know if maybe you felt it wasn't self-aware enough.
Oh, for sure. But also, as the mother of teenage boys, I was just like, you suck, main character. You suck.
Well, yes, but he learns his lesson. I mean, he sucks, but
Okay.
luckily, after the course of a couple of days, he wakes up. Unfortunately, there are too many who go their whole lives without waking up. But I did feel, but yes, it certainly is objectifies women in the first 2/3 of the film until he has his reversal. But
2/3, I would say more like 6/7.
6
Okay.
7, okay. And then, but I do think the specifics of the film are actually quite sweet and quite clever. The basic premise is he's got to go cross country. He's in Ithaca, New York, snowing and freezing and not getting any action. And his buddy, played by Anthony Edwards, who we all know from ER, is in Southern California. Like, hey man, the chicks out here are great. And he's like, come down here, I'm going to hook you up. And he travels across country, but along the way, there's this girl that he tried to woo because he doesn't know how to talk to women. You see him striking out with women, despite the fact that he's a handsome kid. Played by Daphne Zuniga, who we love from Spaceballs. She is the Jewish princess in Mel Brooks's Spaceballs. Although Daphne Zuniga is not Jewish, to my surprise, I learned that this week when I looked her up. And she's stuck up, she's got, she's supposed to be like a smarty pants dish rag who does not want to give him the time of day. But of course she's kind of cute. And anyway, they decide to go through a series of wacky hijinks and curious moments. They end up going cross country together. They're hitching a ride, doing like a ride share thing with, the young Tim Robbins as this kind of goofy
so
guy.
funny. So funny. Yeah.
Goofy guy.
Highlight.
He eventually throws them out of the car, and then they're like stuck in Nebraska, and they have to hitchhike their way across country, and they have all these tender moments and then start to see one another. He begins to realize that, like, hey, if you talk to women like they're human beings, they might actually listen to you. And she realizes that, hey, maybe she doesn't need to be so she's very, I guess, anal retentive, as they used to say, just very, very. And if she loosens up a little bit, she might start enjoying life a little bit more. And then, of course, when they get to California, she has her boyfriend there, and he's just I think those scenes are very, very funny. He's just a super dork. He's like it's a parody of like 1980s movies dorks, and he's just the dorkiest of all dorks. And at first she was like in love with him, and then she's like, oh my God, my boyfriend's a dork. I gotta be with somebody who's a little bit more fun. And John Cusack is wearing a Hawaiian shirt and drinking tequila. But of course, he's sad because even though he can finally embrace this woman that's been promised to him, he's got his mind on someone else that he actually cares about. And it's a nice cross-country movie. It's actually a Christmas time movie. It's funny. I watched it this week, and the very day, his buddy's like, you got to get here by the 22nd. Or she's going to leave. And I was watching it on the 22nd. I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. So,
Okay,
it's a
so
good.
you completely laid out the entire plot. So anyone who was just curious about what the story is and doesn't want to watch the film, well, you now know the story. 100%.
You know the story, but you don't know the specifics. You don't know what makes it sparkle, the individual moments and the clever,
all right,
clever
Mr.
scenes and the
movie reviewer. Okay, fine. Spoiler. That's fine though. But you know what I kept thinking about afterwards, Jordan?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are the Reel Schmooze, like, this Jewy film thing, and there is absolutely nothing Jewy about this at all. And it really reminded me of that Lenny Bruce act, Goyish or Jewish. And this film is so Goyish. It's like the most Goyish of all, especially the foil, the Daphne, whatever character.
Daphne
She's
Zuniga,
like, yeah, the wasp from the land of wasps.
Yeah, no, it is. You're absolutely right. But what I find interesting is, I forget the name of the writers. I'm pretty sure they were Jewish also. Certainly Rob Reiner, as I would imagine most of the people put together the film as producers. It does have a sort of a Hamish quality to it. At the end, I feel, just sort of like at the end, it's like, oh, he's a nice boy. It's has that vibe to it. And it is derived from classic Hollywood. In fact, when this film came out in 1985, some felt it was a straight up remake of the Frank Capra film It Happened One Night, which is Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. And it it isn't a remake of that, but there are a lot of commonalities. I mean, it's two people that are bickering the whole way as they travel cross country, and they have to bunk together, and it's awkward and blah, blah, blah. It has a sort of an old school classic Hollywood feel, which is a sort of steeped in this in a very kind of a Jewish sticky kind of writing. Also, the characters they meet along the way, there's just a lot of comedy happening. So, but you're right. I mean, the meat and potatoes of it, there are no characters that are Jewish. I don't even think any of the people they meet along the way. Oh, there's one Jewish joke in there when he's at the bar and he's got a fake ID, and then the bartender's like, "Are you 21?" And he whips out a fake ID and he goes, "Oh, okay, Dr. Blaustein, what would you like to have?" I mean, that's like the one gag in there.
All right.
I don't remember if it was Blaustein or not, but I'm saying Blaustein. But you're right. I mean, it doesn't have anything specific, but I don't know. It's hard to pin down, but I do feel like it kind of has that sort of patter to it, the cadences of classic Jewish writing that you'll see in classic Hollywood films and Golden Age television.
Okay, so here's something that I'm curious about, right? Because we're doing this podcast, and for the most part, it's possible we'll do more contemporary films, newsier kind of things. But when you're watching a film that is so incredibly dated, like this one, right? There's a difference in pace. There's a difference in, sensibilities and things of that nature. And, on the one hand, like when I was growing up, I would watch black and white films with my dad. He would be nice and snoring on the couch next to me, and we'd watch Big Crosby. And I loved those films because I could get into a completely different mindset. It was so foreign. But now I'm watching this film, which is 40 years old already. I didn't see it when it came out, so I have no warm, fuzzy feelings for it, to begin with, which you may have. How do you expect the layperson like me to watch this kind of film? Just, on the face of it, or what? What do you do?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think there are some movies from that era that you can certainly watch on the face of it. Raiders of the Lost Ark is from 1981, and I don't think it's dated at all. I still think it's one of the greatest action films ever made. The truck sequence, James Cameron and all of his Avatar can't touch the truck sequence of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that's even older than this. Yeah,
I mean, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, right, is pretending to be from the 1930s,
that's true.
40s.
That's a good point. Yes, that's a good point. But yeah, something like this, if you were to show this to a kid now, or someone who's the age of a college freshman today, it would seem like it was from a different planet, because there's no cell phone technology, there's no internet, and that is a major chasm of life. So, the specifics of how they get across country is totally different. The costumes and the way they talk. I mean, the kids, it's not a documentary, but the way they talk in this film is not how kids talk today, and not how kids in movies talk today. There's none of that sort of irony. There's not a lot of foul language. They're not staring at their phone the whole time. In a way, when you're watching this, it's like, oh, gee, we kind of had it better back then. I feel like that it definitely was a more mature, even though these are horny kids, they're more mature about it, and the way they speak is a little more elevated, I felt. So you're right. It is like watching, I mean, it's a 40-year-old film, so it's like watching, when this came out in 1985, it would have been like watching something from the mid-40s, just with Humphrey Bogart, completely other planet. It's funny to me because I did not see this film in the theaters. I was too young. It would have been inappropriate given all the randy qualities to it, but I did see it quite a few times when it came out on video. And I actually did. I don't know if this is weird. I remembered I watched this for the first time with my mom, and she loved it. I remember her thinking it was adorable, but there's kind of some risque stuff. And I was maybe 12 when I saw it the first time, and I saw it a lot of times. As I was watching it again, I was like, oh, I remember this scene. I was like, oh, I remember this line of dialogue. I'd seen it many, many times, but I had not really seen it since. So the last time I saw this movie, I was younger than the characters in the film. I was far away from college. I was in junior high or maybe high school the last time I saw it. Now I'm many years older than the characters. So I was watching it back then, perhaps as sort of an aspirational thing. Not that I wanted to go cross country and shag some woman I never knew, but more of like, oh, college kids are so cool and they get to do all these cool things. And there they are at the party and they're drinking beer and the dorm life looks so much fun. And, even back then, the way they presented the dorm life is like, unless I just never went to the right dorms. Sure, kids party in dorms, but not quite like that. It's a little bit blown out how they're all just like raging and running around in the hallways and whatnot in those scenes, and everybody's just shotgunning beer and whatnot. It was kind of funny to watch it again, as an adult after this had been, I will say, a little bit of an aspirational film for me of like, oh, when I go to college, I'm going to be hanging out and going to all these parties. And I didn't really do that. And I even went to a cool college, but it wasn't quite like that.
Okay, so the other question I had about this is John Cusack, who's the main character. So in the past several years, I loved him in, as I said, Say Anything in High Fidelity. And he had, some great stuff. And I love his sister, Joan, even more. I don't care. I don't want to know anything about her politics because I just love her so much. But John Cusack is a bit of a, shall we say, anti-Israel twerp.
Yeah,
right
Well, it's really interesting. He first of all, abundantly talented guy, although he hasn't, he's a mess right now. He made this film when he was 16. It was sort of his breakout. He had to be like legally emancipated in order to do the film because he was so young. The director, Rob Reiner, didn't even want to read him because like he's too young. And they're like, you got to look at him. He's really good. He's been super famous for a really long time. Anyone who's that famous for that long goes crazy. This is a hard and fast rule. When you get really famous super young and maintain a level of fame, you go crazy. So John Cusack is very political online, and he hates the state of Israel. A lot of actors do, and a lot of actors manage to walk a line and say, look, I really don't like the Netanyahu administration. I really don't like Israel's policies about X, Y, and Z. But they manage to, in their heads and in their persona, keep that distant from like saying, and I also am a straight up anti-Semite. And I will take some of these people at their word and accept it in good faith. I happen to disagree with many of them and their anti-Israel stance, but a lot of them are in good faith. Cusack is not one of these guys. He's on several occasions. He's also addicted to social media, which is ridiculous. You're rich and famous. Don't be on social media. Has made comments or like reposted little cartoons and whatnot. And then people are like, John, geez, that one's a little over the top. And then he'll delete it and say, oh, I apologize. I didn't mean, and it's happened more than once. You get one strike on that. And so the guy's a little nuts, but then the other thing about him is, he also has not made a good film in over 10 years. His last good film was he played, Brian Wilson, believe it or not, the Beach Boys, in a very good movie called Love and Mercy. It was a split thing. Paul Dano played Brian Wilson as a young man, and John Cusack as a middle-aged guy. And it's a very good film. But he's just been kind of spinning his wheels, and he just does these schlock sort of action movies that are shot in Eastern Europe that nobody sees. He's just sort of cashed out. He's given up. He's kind of given up on life. He's given up on his career. He doesn't do anything good. And he just angrily tweets about Israel all day, and this is his life. It's what he's chosen to do. So, does that mean that this movie is no good or his early films are no good? That's up to you. Some people can't stomach it when they see someone I don't know, what's the worst example of this? Like Bill Cosby, right? He raped 50 plus women. It's horrible. But are his old comedy albums still funny? I can't answer that. It's up to you to decide that. So
obviously last week's episode, we also were talking about like love the art, but not the artist. And I think this will be a leitmotif in the Reel Schmooze conversations.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I don't. By the way, even Cosby is a convicted. John Cusack just tweets. I'm not going to equate what Cosby did, what Cusack did. I'm just saying they're both troubling figures. So Cosby's in a whole other category.
Okay, so Jordan.
Yes.
I am very excited about next week. So just in summation, I would say I would give it a meh. Not an oi. It wasn't that bad. Not an oi. Yeah, it's a meh. It's a firm meh for me. All right, Jordan, but you still are like a not bad. Are you on not bad?
Oh yeah. I not bad 100%. Like I said, I hadn't seen this movie in decades, and I was charmed once again. I think this scene when they are in a bed, but they're not like in bed. When she's giggling and she falls back in the bed and he's kind of on top of each other, and they kind of look in each other's eyes. I found that to be very charming. You weren't moved during that little moment there, or you were just like, yeah.
Look, I didn't give it the oi. All right.
I think the movie is very charming. You find the movie to be a little bit charming.
Yeah, but my husband liked it a lot. So again, I think it is more of a boys' movie. But that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, all right. Maybe it's a guy thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Yes, gentleman's movie. Okay, so let's talk briefly about the one we're going to watch next week, but not spoiling it.
No,
for
I'm
me.
going to say
I don't
nothing
care about the
this.
listeners now. I'm saying for me.
Yeah,
don't
I say
spoil it
nothing.
for me.
Next week, you will see the film Marty Supreme, which is a very Jewish movie and very, very good. I feel it's very good. But there were two, it's kind of similar to what we was talking about with John Cusack and his social media, just a little window into the insanity of sort of social media and the news cycle with entertainment news. And I'm bringing this up now because it's the end of the year and I am making a pledge. Next year, in 2026, I am going to divest myself of all of this social media nonsense. I will continue to use these outlets to promote my stuff, but I am going to stop caring what people on social media say. If my friends want to get in touch with me, they can text me. I got to stop because it's really, really bad. Particularly X, formerly known as Twitter, is just a toilet bowl. It's an overflowing toilet bowl of horrible anti-Semitism, horrible racism, horrible everythingism, and also just a mess. It's just a bad system which incentivizes people to be outrageous and say things that they probably don't even mean or understand, because when you see something crazy, you have to click on it to understand the context or to understand what they mean by it. And if they have a blue check, and most of the time these people do, and this is what gets served to you in the algorithm, they get money every time you click. So somebody says something crazy about a celebrity, you go, what? What does that mean? You're looking at it. That's one penny in their bank. You click on it. That's another penny in their bank. You respond. You look at the quotes, and you're getting aggravated as this is happening, and you're seeing other people responding. It's all a big Ponzi scheme. It's terrible. It's a shanda, and we should all just shut it down. It's awful. It's terrible.
I'm so glad that you mentioned Ponzi scheme because did you notice who was the executive producer of The Sure Thing?
Oh, God. No. Was it Bernie Madoff? I mean, who was it? I don't know.
No, it was the Fonz. Henry Winkler.
Oh, well, the Fonz is great. Henry Winkler is one of the great Jews.
I just thought that was, Ponzi, it was just funny.
Did Ponzi make you think of Fonzie? Is that what that was?
Obviously. Okay. Yeah.
All right. There's a Ponzi scheme, and that's bad, but a Fonzie scheme means you're going to have fun and you're going to be cool. Do you know what Henry Winkler does all day now with his life now that he's older and retired? Well, he's not retired. He still works periodically. He just goes fishing. He goes to Idaho and catches enormous fish and posts pictures on social media, which I just condemned social media. Every social media except for Fonzie is terrible. And Fonzie posts pictures of a giant fish, and he goes, look at this one I caught. And everybody goes, yay, it's great. So yeah, the Fonz was the executive producer on this film. Isn't that funny? Meathead directed it, and the Fonz produced it. And, Meathead was married to Laverne for a little while, his first wife, Laverne from Laverne. And she was a great director, Penny Marshall.
Yep.
And there you go. So anyway, okay.
So, and I would also like to just mention that I got a really good tip on social media recently. It was on YouTube, and a viewer suggested that I check out having my hair done and wearing makeup. So thank you for that.
On this podcast or one of your other podcasts?
One of my other ones probably. But
your hair looks gorgeous right now. What are you talking about?
Well, obviously, darling, it does. But I just want to say thanks for the tip on that one too.
Oh my God.
But anyway, as you were saying, so
YouTube
Marty
comments.
Supreme.
All right.
Marty
So
Supreme.
here we go.
Yeah,
very quickly. One of these is kind of funny, and one of them is just like it's going to make everybody nauseous. So there are several actresses in Marty Supreme. The most famous one is Gwyneth Paltrow. Everybody knows who she is. The kind of the leading actress is a woman by the name of Odessa Azayan. And Odessa Azayan is not a household name, but she will be by this time next year. And she's done several films and television shows, and she is Jewish. And she went to the premiere party in New York of it was a big deal. Everybody was there, and she got all these pictures taken, and she dyed her hair dark, and she looked she looked beautiful, but she had dark curly hair, which was a new look for her. And her name is Zion, Zion, like Zionism. Oh my God. And social media went insane when they discovered that it is, in fact, a stage name. So they said this woman who's dyeing her hair black to make herself look more ethnic is faking it, and that's not even her real name. And they accused her of being a settler colonist and awful Zionist. Now, there's a couple of stages to this. Number one, it is a stage name. Her middle name is Zion, and her last name is Adlon. And she changed them because her mother is an actress as well, Pamela Adlon. She's a funny actress and voiceover actress, and she's been in some stuff. So she wanted to take a stage name to sort of differentiate herself from her parents. So she took the A from Adlon and the Zion from her middle name, and she's been using this stage name for well over 5 years. But only people noticed it after this party. But when I say it wasn't like one or two people accused her of being a weirdo colonist because she has Zion in her name and she has dark hair. It was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and the views on this, you could see how many people have read the little commentary. Millions of people had to engage in this weirdo thing to the point that, and then they discovered that when she was a kid, she had like a Facebook marketplace shop where she sold clothing, and she sold an IDF t-shirt when she was like 17 years old. And this was enough. So she was accused of being personally responsible for the quote unquote Gaza genocide as this young actress who's awesome in the movie, to the point that she actually had to go on social media and say, like, I don't actually support Netanyahu, and I don't support the IDF, and I am not a Zionist, but there you go. So she had to say this because otherwise she would have never worked in Hollywood again. It's just insane. What she actually believes, who knows? Who even cares? She's just an actress, and she's very, very good in this film. But the degree to which some people on social media have been saying, I don't even care. I'll never see this movie because it's filled with Zionist scum. It's just like, because she had Zion in her name, and nothing can talk these people off that ledge. It's crazy. That's that. That's not even the crazy one. The crazier one is this one. You're going to love this. The listeners are going to love this. At the Marty Supreme premiere party, which I did not attend, but a friend of mine did. And he took a picture of one of the actresses in the movie, Fran Drescher, the nanny, who you love, who we all love, is in the movie, and she's great. And at the party, because it was in New York and it was a big deal, was a guy who was a little bit of free time because he doesn't have a job, but he will in a few days. The future mayor of New York City, Zoran Mamdani, was at the party, and he stood next to Fran Drescher, the nanny, who he's probably watched on TV since he was a kid, and smiled for the camera. And my friend took the picture and put it on Twitter, X, and said, "Hey, it's the mayor and Fran Drescher. Look at that. Everybody's having fun." People went insane. Why did they go insane? People on the extreme left condemned their beloved Zoran Mamdani, the savior of the most left-wing politician in America right now, you could say, even though he hasn't done anything yet, but he will in a few weeks, because Fran Drescher is a Zionist. And she actually is. I mean, she's the, actually, the smoking gun was she was at an IDF fundraiser one time, and there were pictures like, oh my God, how dare she? And people who just spend their time online were just like screaming, like, I give up on Mamdani. They're all corrupt. He's just another politician. Forget him. Dump Mamdani. He's junk. It's like, this is your guy. This is the most anti-Zionist guy you're ever going to get, is Mamdani. There's nothing. This is it. especially in New York. And he hasn't even started work yet. And all he did was take a picture with the nanny. And it was not just one or two people. It was many, many, many people with millions of views, because a lot of powerhouse super leftists would promote it and make their commentary. And again, this is all on X Twitter. And every time you click, somebody's making a buck. And it just made me just laugh and just say, like, this is why I'm done. I will deal with substantial criticism from real people and have conversations. But if the fact that Zoran Mandani, who is somebody who hasn't even gone to work yet, we have nothing to criticize yet, substantial, because he hasn't done anything yet, is already now being dismissed by the people on his side of the fence on this particular issue because he was dared to shake hands with the nanny. Where can you go from that? So that's what is clouding the movie. It has nothing to do with the movie, but it was all happening at the premiere party.
Okay, Jordan. Thank you for that.
Is that of interest to the listeners, or is it just insane? I don't know.
I would say it's not very much of interest to me, but I'm very happy to get responses from our listeners on whether this was.
How can I become like you and not care about that? Do you not care because it's all like far away? It's just New York nonsense. Is that why it's not of interest to you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's that, and maybe it's also like, life's too short. Like,
right.
Come on.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you. Like, it's all online. It's not real. It's just people doing social media stuff. It's nonsense.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, you go around in life and a lot of people are just doing this, staring at their phones at all time, and it sticks into your brain. You're online at the drugstore. You got, I'm going to be on this line for 10 minutes, and you're getting these messages, and they're sometimes good messages and sometimes they're nonsense messages. But either way, you're still being informed
I have an idea
by this.
for you,
Jordan. Throw this in the sea.
No. If you're online at the pharmacy or wherever, just pop an earbud in.
Yeah.
And listen to a nice podcast, and honestly, most of the podcasts I listen to are either news, obviously, or comedy podcasts. And then I just kind of look a little insane laughing out loud, but it's fine.
That's good.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan, we've been going on too long. And listeners, I am really interested to hear what you had to say about the long Twitter rant. No, I'm just kidding. Jordan, I love you. Bring everything you want, anytime you want. And I'm so looking forward to talking about this movie next week. So yalla, let's keep going. And thank you so much for joining me today.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good week, everyone.
You too. Thanks for listening to the Times of Israel's The Reel Schmooze. Hopefully not the real snooze on this one. And please join us again next week. We were produced by Ari Schlacht. Send us any kind of comments or questions to podcast@timesofisrael.com. Thanks so much. Shalom.